So, I just smoked a joint. And while I was smoking a joint, I had an idea because I realized something. I said, I'm talking a lot about politics and economy and all this other stuff like that. And yeah, all sounds great. But what I'm not sharing is my thoughts on what can we, the average citizens, do about it, right? And that's the big thing is me and my neighbors and the average person in the street are the ones who are going to be affected the most by this, and we have the least amount of power, right? The politicians and the rich people, they don't give a fuck about prices. They don't give a fuck about trade wars. I mean, to a billionaire, a trade war is fucking awesome. Elon Musk and all those rich guys, they want a recession to happen. They want the economy to tank. Why? Because if the economy tanks, stock prices go down, everything's on fucking sale. Right? So today a share could be $10 a share, but a recession hits, and next thing you know, that company, that junior oil exploration company or whatever company it is, now their shares drop down to $4 a share. That's a 60% discount. Now you can go in, buy those shares at $4, and then yeah, it's a gamble. You hope maybe that business stays afloat, this and that and other thing. But if it does, and if it's in the right industry, it's going to go up, and now the rich own more, right? So if you do investing in the stock market, I mean, don't sell when prices are in the toilet because that's how you lose money. If you have the wherewithal and the ability, like I said, stocks go down in price, things are on sale. All right, dollar cost averaging. If you like, I invest every week, not a huge amount, $25 a week into my tax-free savings account, into mutual fund and everything like that. Last year generated me 11.2% was my ROI over the course of the year. Had a pretty good year with that one, I just view things as like right now, every week. When prices are down, I get more shares. When prices go up, I get less shares. But over the course of time, all that stuff evens out, right? But what can we do? What can we as people do to make a difference, right? I mean, there's a lot of rhetoric, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of frustration, there's a lot of feelings and emotions going on right now. And when you make decisions based on feelings and emotions, those aren't necessarily the best decisions, right? Because you're basing it on feelings and emotions, and those aren't always the most stable. So, in terms of Canadians, right, what can we do? Well, buy Canada. I mean, that's incredibly hard to do. I mean, there's a lot of things that we buy that may say made in Canada, but inputs to make that product come from the States, come from wherever, right? I mean, there's very few truly made in Canadian products. But they're there. So, I mean, you may pay a little bit more, but in this day and age, it's about supporting Canadian businesses and Canadian jobs. And, what's important to you? Do you want to save 50 cents on this widget at Walmart made in China? Or do you want to, spend a little bit more, but you're supporting Canadian jobs and the Canadian economy? All right, that's something that you can do. Focus on Canadian companies, American companies that didn't directly, donate to Trump or his inauguration. I mean, there's things that people can do, but that takes due diligence and that takes work, right? And most people aren't willing to put that work in. They're not willing to do the research to see where I'm going to spend my money because times are tough and shit's expensive and they want to save a buck, right? So the onus falls on us as people to make those choices and to make informed choices, right? Another thing you can do, particularly, like I said, in Canada, we got an election, sometime in 2025. It's looking less and less like it might be a spring election. Jagmeet Singh and the NDPs may be willing to prop up a new Liberal leader, depending on what, is on offer. So that bodes not so good for Pierre Poilievre. He wants to collect election sooner rather than later for various reasons, which, I think I'm going to do a piece on, just my thoughts on the Canadian political landscape and the parties and everything like that. But, make sure you vote. If you don't want the Conservatives to win, then make sure you volunteer for the candidate that you do want to win, be it Liberal, NDP, Green, Bloc Québécois, whatever. Knock on doors, work the phones. If you can afford to donate to that party, do it. It's tax free. You're not tax free. You get a tax receipt for it, so you can claim it against your income. All right. But the most important thing that we can do is vote. Particularly if you live in provinces like Alberta and Saskatchewan, who are very heavily conservative, and you may think, well, what's the point of voting because everybody else is going to vote conservative and it doesn't matter, and I'm just not going to vote. Well, it does matter because the way Canadian politics is structured, federal parties get money from the government in relation to the number of votes. I think it's $1.75 for every vote that they get. The federal government reimburses the party $1.75 to do that, and that's for all parties and everything, registered parties, I should say. And the reason that happened was when Canadian legislation changed to take money out of the elections from corporations and unions and limited the amount that an individual person can donate. $1,750 is the most a person can donate, to a political party or candidates in Canada. So in order to do that, the federal government at the time, 20 some odd years ago, decided to make it that each vote became a certain dollar value. So if you got 1 million votes, you got $1.75 million reimbursement from the government, right? So voting does matter, even if your candidate has no hope in hell in winning in your particular riding. It still matters because it matters on the party level, right? But it also shows as well too that not everybody in a certain province is leans one way. I use Alberta as an example because I'm an Albertan, right? And I used to be a lifelong conservative. I was a PC voter, a Conservative Party of Canada voter. I never voted UCP. I never liked Danielle Smith. But ever since I got sick, my priorities in life have changed, and I'm definitely a lot more on the left-leaning side of the spectrum, right? I voted NDP in my last by-election here in Lethbridge. And you know what? In fucking rural redneck Lethbridge, the NDP candidate won in the by-election, right? So the riding was NDP prior, so it's not like it was a flip or anything like that. But, and the NDP did form provincial government here in Alberta. So it is possible, right? Make sure you contact your member of parliament, your MLAs, your city councillors. If you have concerns, voice them, write them down, join groups. In America, write your congressman, write your senator, write your state level officials. Be in contact with them because this is going to affect you. It is going to be expensive for you. It is going to be a huge detriment to the American economy, and that is going to affect you, right? And like I said, the rich, the powerful, it doesn't. Price of eggs does not matter to Elon Musk or Donald Trump or fucking anybody else in the government, right? Or senators or congressmen, right? I mean, they're all shielded from that. So, in order to affect change, you got to be active. And it's hard. It's hard to be active. And it's tiring and exhausting. And that's what they hope. They hope that people get tired, they get exhausted, or they just don't care because they're so busy on just surviving that they don't have the means or the desire to look at things and go, what can I do? And we like to think maybe we're a little powerless, but we're not. We have power, but the people have to use that power. Right. So, in order to protect democracy and our, comfortable existence and how we do things, it's going to take work to protect those things. It's not going to happen easily, and it's going to be a long, protracted fight for rights and equality, right? Do we as a society have it in us to do that fight? Past generations have shown, that they did have that wherewithal, and the question is, now it's our turn. Do we have that wherewithal? Take care.